Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. He is Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian, and we're going to break down the stories of the day, which basically are all about patience, because we know the trade deals are not going to be all done today, and we know the Fed has a two-day Fed meeting, so at least you have to wait a day until tomorrow to hear what the Fed's going to do. But we'll tell you what the Fed's going to do and what the reaction to various earnings were on today's Rebel's Edge. Bam.
Things got a lot of work behind it, I'll tell you that right now. I was trying to think the other day, Jon, I don't even know how long we've been doing it, but it's got to be at least, 2 years? Maybe more? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I lost track. I'll have to go back and check my notes, Pete, but I think we're at 670 episodes or something.
Wow. Yeah. So well over 2 years, really, if you cut out all the weekends and everything else. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Thanks for all your support, folks. Again, I'm Jon Najarian. Pete and I are going to cover macro minute, a little bit of futures, and then some stocks, and maybe throw in a little bit of sports. So let's dive into the macro minute, Pete. And I'm going to say, and no surprise here, that it is all about patience, because again, we're going to get the Fed meeting tomorrow. The second day is when Jerome Powell actually answers questions. That will be interesting. There is nearly a 100% chance that he does not move on rates tomorrow. So I don't think we're waiting for that, are we, Pete?
I don't think we're waiting for that either, Jon. Anybody who is going on that side is really just somebody who wants to just fight and lose that fight, because at 99+%, I would say, we're probably going to pause. And listening to the Fed, all the different commentary that we've had feels like they're going to pause. And I know the president would like them to make some cuts, but I don't think it's going to happen this time. Maybe next time, we'll see. But, we always got all that information in front of us from the CME group and what they put out there. So that's always great. Earnings continue to roll on, Jon. But I think you're 100% right. It's about tariffs, and they are not going to get done overnight. We do have this meeting going on with the prime minister right now with President Trump, and I think that's pretty interesting. I would expect that this comes out and it's very positive. That's my guess right now. I don't think this is going to be like when we were dealing with the Ukraine. I think this is something that's going to actually come out, and we'll see some smiles, some hands shook. Does that mean it's done deal? No, but I think we do have the possibility of some negotiations coming through and actually getting the I's dotted and the T's crossed. I think we're going to see that in the next week or so.
Well, let's switch gears to fantastic futures. And boy, it's really tough to not pay attention to gold. So take a look at this chart, folks, because the one that Jared's putting up here about gold is, I think, a 6-month chart of gold. And most of us would love to have any stock move like this. I mean, it's just from the lower left to the upper right, Pete. It's just like boom, 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 just keeps going higher. And today it's basically $3,400 to the ounce.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You're right. I mean, it's to look at that. And it's had a big pullback and then just immediately started moving back to the upside. So it's been a really, really interesting mover. I think the other one is, we talk about volatility all the time, Jon. We started creeping up today pretty good when the market was getting hit early on. And then it started to, pull back once again. I wouldn't be surprised to see us get back towards 22 where we just were. But, time will tell. And obviously, a lot of folks are still kind of nervous about what might happen over the next few days and talking about the possibility of maybe some negotiations completed. That's a big maybe. But I think with the Fed and everything else, I think that volatility is probably going to be a little bit stickier up here towards 24. And I think that's probably where we're going to be. I'd be a little surprised, quite frankly, if we got to 22. But it's a possibility. We were just there yesterday, so who knows?
Well, we'll dive into some of the big earnings and so forth right now, folks. Starting off with Palantir. And this is one where people were speculating actively. How actively? Well, take a look. 16,000 puts. That's 1.6 million share equivalent. of people that wanted to be palms out, hands towards you, which means they're sellers. And they've been right, despite the fact that, Pete, they beat on top line, they beat on bottom line, and they guided higher. So they're just basically complaining about, I guess, the valuation, right, Pete?
I think that's exactly what it is. I was just about to say, you look at all these numbers, how could you possibly see a stock that's pulled back? Well, we were just pushing up against the 52-week highs, number one. Number two, we've had a monstrous volume already today, John. The turnover's been absolutely incredible. It did get down all the way down to 105. It's bounced off of that. So it's moving around in an interesting way. 125 is about the level where the 52-week highs are. But I think if you take a look a little bit deeper, and it's something we used to talk about with NVIDIA, we used to talk about it with Tesla, but I mean, the idea that this is a company, they're doing great, and they're doing nothing wrong. But a PE of 230, I do think that that's something where a lot of folks out there are thinking, well, you know what? That's pretty damn lofty, and it is. And I think that's probably part of the problem right now, John. Now, if this stock would have been a little bit closer to 100 coming into earnings rather than well above it, I think maybe we would have seen a little bit of a pop, maybe. But the fact that we are just coming off the highs in a 230 PE, I think people are kind of like, well, I like the ride. I think it can still get a higher, but maybe that'll take a little bit of time. So they kind of backed off and started selling.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I looked at a 1-year chart, Pete, and the 1-year chart, it still looks great. I mean, it backs and fills, it backs and fills. It's not straight like gold. It really does make some pretty significant corrections of close to 20% frequently.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it was a $21 stock a year ago. And like you said, Pete, it was at 52-week highs, up there over 130 just a little bit ago. So the way I do math, Pete, that's about 500% in a year.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, I can see why people would be a little thinking that the valuations might be stretched. Let's talk about DoorDash, because obviously they deliver food to your house, to your apartment, whatever. DoorDash has been all about that. Total orders were basically 750 million orders, Pete. That's up 18% year over year. And that's just the first quarter, folks. So nearly 750 million orders. How many of you guys are so lazy that you always order from freaking DoorDash? I can honestly say, Pete, I never have. I'm the guy that likes to drive down to the store and pick the stuff up. I know it's convenient, but I think my daughters and everybody else who uses it, it's a little bit of laziness more than, and maybe that's why it's been such a great stock, Pete.
Well, and you know what, John, I think a lot of people got trained in during the pandemic because, you know, a lot of people were saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay at home and I'm going to just do this through DoorDash and all the rest of the different delivery cycles there. I'll tell you what, John, I look at their numbers. They're absolutely outstanding. I mean, you can't really complain about anything that they put up. The cash to debt's $5 billion. I mean, everywhere I look. And by the way, this is another one of those stocks that's not too far off of the 52-week highs of 215. It's not that terribly far away. So I think it's something where they're pushing down a little bit, and it might be for the wrong reasons. I'm not really sure how to interpret this one, but I'll tell you this, John. They made 2 major acquisitions almost just literally in the last few days. One of them was something called 7 Rooms, $1.2 billion. Another one is Deliveroo, which is out there based in London, but their exposure level is to 40 countries. That's a $3.9 billion acquisition. So in total, you're well over $5 billion. I think that might be part of the reason why this stock is actually getting pushed around a little bit today. I would have expected it to be a lot stronger, but I think a lot of people get nervous when they see $5 billion worth of purchases going out there. I think, quite frankly, I think for the long term, that's a really good thing for DoorDash. I think that gives them that unbelievable exposure that they'd like to have. So I think in the longer term, you're looking at something that could be a very, very big positive catalyst for DoorDash.
Let me point this out, Pete. $80 billion market cap. And do they own the restaurants? No. They connect the restaurants over here with the consumer over here. And that's worth $80 billion. I'm absolutely amazed, but then, it's the same sort of deal with Uber, Pete.
Yeah.
Uber is just a connector, right? They connect me with the car that's going to take me from point A to point B, and they don't own the car. They don't pay for the gas.
Yeah.
And they take what, 35% just for doing that? Pretty amazing stuff.
It is.
All right. How about HIMS?
Oof.
HIMS, Hims and Hers, they call it. This one, Pete, it opened down hard. It was down to 38 bucks a share. It stayed there for maybe just most of the pre-market. But as soon as we opened, that was from a 41 close. It opened at 38, so down $3. But then it just zooms to the upside. And they gave weak guidance, but they said, and I guess this is what people are hanging their hats on, Pete, more collaborations. And we had unusual activity in the calls of HIMS as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always great to see that. I think that this partnership, John, with Novo Nordisk, I think that's something that people are probably getting more and more excited about. And because of that, and then all of a sudden you do see what the numbers really did look like, and you see revenue up 111% year over year. Sales in Q1 doubled. I think they put up some solid numbers, some solid performance. Yes, the weak outlook was there. But you know what? Right now, I think it is a difficult thing. I love the fact that a lot of these companies, most of the companies, are giving outlooks. Some of them are actually pulling it. But I think it's important to still have something out there. And maybe you give like some of these companies have done, John, where they're giving you hey, if tariffs get taken care of, this is what it looks like. But if they don't get taken care of, this is what it looks like. Give us something. And these guys were at least willing to give us something. It was a little bit weaker than expected. Not a lot. 530 million to 550 million, but they were expecting 565 million. Yeah, I get it. They missed. There's no doubt about it. But I think when you look at this partnership, that partnership is going to be very, very big for HIMS, and that's why people are turning.
Well, now let's wind it up, Pete, with UpWork, because UpWork is up, and away. In fact, it's up like 19% at mid-session. Basically, they have creative, they do stuff for the web. UpWork is a marketplace that connects businesses with various independent professionals. I guess in a way, Pete, kind of like Fiverr, if you guys have heard of that one. Somewhat similar model. And the fact that it's up this big on these earnings is pretty damned impressive.
Yeah, they had some good growth, John. They affirmed their revenue guidance that they put out there. They raised their EBITDA guide. I mean, so they put up some good stuff. And I think that was a big portion of why we're seeing that. The guidance was not great, but it was a little bit higher and in line kind of a thing. Also, some big shorts in here, John. And I think that's sort of part of what this squeeze is coming from, because the stock was up as much as 22% or more. But I was looking, and they got a shorts of anywhere between 10 and 13%. And this is a company that's still pretty inexpensive. We talked about 230 for Palantir as far as their PE. Well, this one's trading at a PE of 12 for UpWork. So it gives you an idea of this one is definitely something where it's possibly something that could stretch up to the 15, maybe 16. That gives it plenty of room to the upside. I think people are looking at the valuation right now and saying, look, this thing, they've done well. They're going to continue to do well, and we like it. Maybe there's a little bit of a bump in the road, maybe not, but they like the guidance, I think, that they're seeing as well.
Well, let's switch gears, Pete, and let you take us to your favorite subject, the NFL. Because as Pete always says, the NFL, there is no off season.
Nope.
There really isn't. And I tell you what, Pete, as exciting as that St. Louis Winnipeg Jets hockey game was that we highlighted yesterday, the NFL is just killing it with ratings.
Yeah. Well, and the ratings aren't even just for the games. That's the huge part about this whole thing. And that's where I'm going with this one, John. The NFL was just at Lambeau Field, John, historic Lambeau Field, packed the place, put 600,000 people there. And by the way, that money that gets moved around, and we talked about it with Colorado, and that's why Deion Sanders is worth what he gets. But the year before it was in Detroit, $213 million came into Detroit, John, when they decided to be the host for the NFL draft. Now, that was last year. This year, obviously, it's Green Bay. But I think the important part is next year it's Pittsburgh. But how about the fact that the NFL is going to Washington? I think that's absolutely incredible, and it's going to be great. And you know what they're going to do, John, is they're going to be out there on the National Mall, and I think that's going to be something that everybody gets excited about. I've already seen some mock-ups of what it would look like. Looks absolutely incredible. And by the way, the estimates, they're looking for about 1 million people to show up. So I don't think that's actually any kind of a stretch either. I think the NFL has that much power. I mean, there's 600,000 there in Green Bay. You have 750,000 were in Detroit. I just wonder right now, Pittsburgh, I think, is going to have to bite off something pretty big to get anything close to these numbers, John. And I think they can. I think if they do it in the right spot and everything, they can get it done. But I think being up there on the National Mall, that's going to be absolutely killer for the NFL draft.
Well, and once again, Pete, like you and I have said for several years, the top 94 rated shows every year for the last 3 or 4 years at least has been either NFL or NCAA football.
Right.
It crushes everything. And they got 13.6 million people tuned into the draft this year, the first round. They averaged 7.5 million. That blows away Major League Baseball and the NBA, Pete, especially on an individual game basis. It blows them both away combined.
Yeah.
So, and then I was reading in the New Yorker that they said, yeah, but it's boring. Well, that's your opinion, I guess, because I don't think 13.6 million people tune in to get bored.
I think you're right about that. By the way, you know what else isn't boring? So when we had the Olympics, who really stood out for us there? I'm going to say it right here. Snoop Dogg. He was everywhere, right? You know who else is everywhere? And this goes back to the NFL. Jon Gruden. This guy, John, shows up at every training camp. He's become a consultant. He walks around. He got, pushed out of the Las Vegas Raiders. Unfortunately, there's some issues there. And so the NFL made a decision, hey, something has to change. And he stepped down. But he's still the Mr. NFL. I mean, this guy is absolutely everywhere. He seems like he shows up to every camp that somebody's putting on anywhere in the NFL. But here's the cool part. He decided to buy a franchise, John, or at least be a partner in a franchise, but it's not in the NFL. He decided to be in Arena Football 1 league. They're called Arena Football 1, and it's that league. And it's pretty interesting. It's something that I know that his brother played in that because I actually roommated with his brother at one point in time when I was playing. He came from Arena Football. He was playing in the World Football League that I was playing in. I'll tell you what, unbelievable how John has been able to lift himself up, because for a while there, John, he was a guy that was like, hey, I'm not sure this is a good time yet. Now, he's kind of the face of the NFL. This guy's bouncing around and sitting in different meeting rooms and everything else, and he gets up there. He always has great speeches and everything that he does. I think it's pretty cool, but what do you think about the Arena Football? I actually had to look it up because I didn't even know Arena Football still existed, John. I haven't seen it in a long time. So it woke me up, and he's part of the Nashville Cats. So that's where he's bought into it. Pretty interesting, pretty fun. He's pretty excited about that. And they had a big press release about that as well. So it's kind of cool to see Jon Gruden still back and he's still doing stuff.
Well, what I love to see, Pete, is when you see Gruden standing there with these quarterbacks, because he took I think he called it Gruden's QB class or something like that. He took these 6 quarterbacks and, Jackson Dart, of course, Will Howard, all these guys, even the guy from Memphis, Pete, who I really hadn't seen play this year, but he was really high on that guy. Yep. So he's kind of turned himself into a little bit of a quarterback whisperer in the way that he asks some questions and then he breaks it down as far as what they should be thinking about when they see this kind of defense and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, in particular, these players love him, Pete.
Yeah.
We can call him Chucky all we want, but and he looks like the little sucker, but which is partly where that comes from. The other part is that he's, out there.
Yeah.
But he is great. And I really enjoy watching and listening to him because as much as you and I watch football, I always learn something when John Gruden's talking about stuff.
Yep, he's a special guy. He's a fun guy. He did some things that he shouldn't have done, but I think in the big picture of things, he's done a great job. And that's why these teams want him to show up, because he's kind of entertaining too, right?
Right. Well, and I'll defend him. Not that you're trying to accuse him of anything, Pete,
Right.
but I'll defend him in that the NFL leaked some emails that were internal with him, and then basically, that's a violation of all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Now, did the Raiders give them those? Did they somehow get them through another channel? I can't remember if that's even been settled yet, Pete, but I know he had about $100 million suit because of that. And like you said, that's why he lost his job with the Raiders. They paid him a fortune, and then, it was gone. But they did the same thing with the next coach.
Yeah.
They paid that guy. And where is that guy now, Pete? Probably on a beach someplace, because they gave him $100 million too. I'm sure Brady is not out there saying, yeah, let's give the next guy $100 million.
No, I think you're right about that. I'll tell you what, Brady's one of the sharper guys that we've seen coming out of the NFL in a long time. That's for sure.
Yeah, he has invested wisely, especially in watches. All right. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you got something out of our descriptions of which of those stocks, Palantir, DoorDash, Hims, and so forth, the UpWork, how they did. And we wish you guys good luck trading today. Keep your eye on tomorrow, because that is when we're going to hear from the Fed at 2 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll be on the hour before, 1 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. See you then.